we're back in the studio today, and I'm just getting some water going here, and I've got some watercolor paints. I'm going to hydrate them real quick. These are dry kind. Some people said that they don't like to see how I prepare my feathers, that they don't like a hour-long video where half of it's spent on preparing a feather, and they don't want to have to hear about how it takes 3 days or 4 days of work to do one feather. So for those people, we're cutting all that out. I've got one prepared. If you want to see how I do it on gesso, or do it with gesso, I've got links to both the white feather, and that's down in the video description, and I also have a link to the black feather, so you can see it on the two feathers, and that shows you how I do it, and that will be good enough. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of sky blue, and I've been letting this hydrate for a second. I'm going to start here, and I want it to be darker and then work its way to the center, but I don't want it to touch the center, if that makes sense. Just wanting some color. I'm going to do it like that. And then I'm going to hydrate just a little bit of a darker blue, not much, and just kind of come in right here and kind of make that darker up here. Not enough to make a big difference, but just kind of draw the eye in a little bit. Now over here, I'm going to put a little bit of water. And I'm going to get this kind of a peachy brown color. It's a really weird brown. I really like it. I like it a lot. And I'm going to take that peachy brown, and then I'm going to take some orange and mix it in. And that's going to give me a salmon color. Alright. And then I'm going to go in here. And I'm just doing a real light and some white, or some water here to kind of tone it down. I'm going to put a little bit more darker in the bottom. I'm going to let that dry. The reason why I'm doing that, if you have never seen a color wheel, I'll show you a color wheel. But imagine two triangles overlapped, kind of like Star of David. The points on the first triangle are your primary colors. That is red, yellow, and blue. Alright, that primary color is just a color that you have, that it takes no other colors to make it. Alright? So in this case, no other color makes blue except for blue. That's not the same for an orange, which is kind of the salmon color. Alright? That's what we call a secondary color. It means that you have to take one or more colors, in this case secondary colors, you have to have two colors to make it. In this case, yellow and red. That will make an orange. And salmon is kind of in the orange spectrum. Alright, now, if you were going to do yellow and blue, that would make green. Same thing, red and blue would make purple. So your secondary colors are orange, green, and purple. If you take those two triangles and overlap them like Star of David, and then make like a circle pattern over that, that's what you get the color wheel. So it's red, yellow, orange, then it goes to a red, orange, yellow, and then green, blue, and then purple. And it goes in a circle. And when you have a color so basically every primary color is opposite of a secondary color. And if you mix those two primary colors together, you get brown. Alright? But if you take the colors as they are opposite of each other, that's what we call complementary colors. And orange and blue are across from each other on the color wheel. And so with that, it makes your eyes kind of dance, vibrate, it calls attention to whatever you're trying to draw in the eye. And so in this case, I'm going to use two different complementary colors to kind of bring in the eye a little bit and bring attention to this, because this is a small feather, roughly about the size of 2/4 high and about 1.25 wide. If you're used to US coins, you understand what I'm talking about there. Alright, so we're going to let this dry, and then I'm going to come back and we'll go over it with some more stuff. Alrighty, so we now have that dry. And what I'm doing just drawing some leaves. For the next part of this paint, we're going to be using acrylics, and so I'm going to actually keep this kind of simple. I'm going to go with some very simple colors. I'm going to do this. And that. Alrighty. So let's see what colors I have and what I'm going to use here. First, titanium white. Alright. Permanent black, scarlet red, crimson, lemon yellow, deep yellow, or what they call yellow deep in Master's Touch, and then yellow ochre. Alright, so those are going to be my colors. So I'm going to put these onto a plate, because that's my palette of choice, and we'll get started with this. Okay, if you'll look at my palette here, which is just not more than a paper plate, I've got all my colors out here, and then I got white under these. These two I left as normal, and I got these two off to the side here. Why do I have that? If you watched any of my videos, you understand that paints are made to have a white background. If you put them over some other color, they're not going to be as true to the color as what you intended them to be, because they're meant to have a white background. Now black, I did not put white down, because black, anytime you put it over a color, makes it more dark than black alone. So you don't want black over white, you want black over another color. White, can't really mix anything white to make white brighter. Now these two are off to the side because I'm wanting to make varying shades of gray with this. And so I'm just mixing up some gray. And the reason for this is because the animal that I'm painting today has a lot of gray in it. So we're going to be doing a crane. And a lot of painters on YouTube do not do animals, or they do very simplistic animals. And I am not a niche specific painter where I only do landscapes or only do seascapes. I do a little bit of everything. And so I've got this gray here, and I'll probably change it up, but that's a good gray for me. And I'm going to take my favorite brush in the whole wide world, which is this little manicure #1 brush. Not made for this. Put this paint off to the side. And I'm going to come in here and make my first crane. Or at least block him in. You know, I love animals, and I'm not one of these animal lovers that doesn't hunt. I believe in hunting as well. I think that you can have both. You can love an animal and also be a hunter. And one of the things that I absolutely want to hunt one day is the Sandhill Crane. Now here in Florida, you cannot hunt our Sandhill Cranes because we have a type that the Fish and Game have said is unique to Florida. And they don't want us to, you know, make it go extinct, and I understand that. So we can't hunt Sandhill Cranes. Now in this area of Florida, we don't have Sandhill Cranes. Now when you get down to Central and South Florida, you'll see them in greater detail. They make a whistling sound. Now, Midwest, Southwest, areas like that, you can hunt Sandhill Cranes. And they actually have a name for them. They say they're the ribeyes of the sky. I just want to hunt one and take the feather and paint on it. I know that sounds so wrong and so counterintuitive, but I just think that would be freaking awesome. I know a lot of people won't understand that, and I get it. You don't have to understand it. Some of y'all be going, well, you're covering up all that green that you just painted. Yes, I know. A lot of the stuff that I paint gets covered up. That's part of painting. Just get used to it. I didn't mean for all of it to be there. I just meant for some to be there. And I'll have some. And some of y'all are going to say, well, did you plan for where areas are going to be? No, not really. I just kind of like, this looks like a good spot. Even though I've got a few degrees, I've got a master's degree and stuff, I am not the best planner in the world. You can ask my wife. I don't plan very well. I can fix problems. I can tell you how to fix problems. I'd see problems. But planning, no. That's not me. Okay. I've got something else I'm painting in behind him. While this is still wet, I'll kind of come in here and get some of that gray. Now I'll do the same thing with black. Like you just had black. Yeah, but I wanted to have some black in here. I didn't want it to be that strong. And some blackish gray in here. I'm thinning my black down. Now you're probably asking why I'm thinning my black down. If you're a constant viewer to the channel, you already know not thick paint or thin paint sticks to a thin paint. Or sorry, thin paint sticks to thick paint. Yeah. One of those. A little bit more white. Come back in here. Kind of almost got a shaggy look in a way to me. Then there's this little bit of dust. That's the only way I describe it. And that's where that yellow ochre comes in. It's kind of it's a weird hue. It's hard to explain. Kind of comes up in here. And then you get some up in here. They have a red head, which I love. So I'm going to start off, since it's got some white, I'm going to go right in here. And do there. And then we'll take a bit of that red, mix it with that white, get it bright, bright. and get just a drop of water. Thin it down. Just thin it down super gently. The reason for that, so that I can float a highlight like that. Just let your brush kind of tickle that a little bit. And the reason why is that it'll make it look like plumage. A lot of people are like, hey, make that plumage real easy. I just skip a brush over the top. Wherever it hits, it hits. Where it don't, it don't. Alright, now, with that said, we'll do one. You gotta be very careful with this. But while it's drying, I want one black drop right there. Alright. Don't worry. As long as it don't run, it'll be alright. Looks a little weird now, but it won't in a minute. I just needed that. Now, let's get some more of that gray. This one I'm going to do weird. In fact, I think I'm going to make this gray a little darker for this reason. Yeah, I think I'm going to make it darker because I need to see what I'm doing here. So what I'm doing, I'm trying to figure out where I want, like I'm gonna come back in here with some gray to kind of make a marker where I want a difference in. And then I'll come back in here. Get a little bit of idea of where the feathers are going to go. Like I said, I'm not a planner, but I do kind of get an idea of where things go. It's got to be proportional. Alright. On this, I am going to get some white. I'm thinning some white down so they'll go over this paint better. That's what I'm doing. See how it's sticking to that thicker paint? That's what I'm wanting. And then we'll come back over here. Back over here. Starting to make back with some fresh paint. See how it's like now. Some of these are looking like feathers already. That's what I love. Some water. More paint. Thin it down. This right here can be more. Thin enough. While that's drying, I think I'm gonna go back to my red here. This is crimson. I'm gonna let it mix in with the white a little bit because it's closer. Into my scarlet with the white here. Brighten that up a little bit. I'm going to mix a little bit of black and gray together to make a darker gray. Strengthening that line. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to trace out path I think the light is hitting. I'm gonna let this dry and I'll be right back. It's dried a little bit. I can play with it some more. Sometimes it just gets a little bit too much to play with. So what I'm doing is I'm making an eye where I had that black. I want to add a little bit more black around that, but that's all I can get. Now I'm going to go back in here with some lighter yellow. Back. Same thing here. Okay. Then I'll let that dry and then I'll come back with black on top of that. And the reason why I'm letting it dry is because the black I can get a little, go real thin, just barely touch it and it'll do fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and I'm going to this out. Try and take some white. Should come in here. They're almost shaggy in appearance to me. They remind me very much of an emu, although they have more defined feathers. If that makes sense. Emu is almost more, I don't know, hairy. Feathers are almost hair-like. As these creatures are definitely darker, or thicker, sorry. I'll go behind here. Just because I need that definition. I'm gonna go in here. Like this. There we go. That does better there. I don't want a good dark spot that's wet. Just kind of do some light touches in here, but the majority I'll do with white. Right here. Right there. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna call that finished painting. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but if I haven't, I apologize. These are for sale. So unlike the study pieces that I did showing you how to do the gesso, these are for sale. And if you'd like to see this in your home, you can buy it. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this paint, and I'll see you on the next one.